Hello, and welcome back to... Sorry, give me a moment. Hey, wait.
There, that's better.
Please put me back.
No more need for robot voice.
Ouch.
Hi, I'm Raven, also known as Raven Proton. I am a LEGO animator. I make LEGO-themed animations out of just about anything that I find funny or interesting. But today I'm doing something different. Today I'm going to just talk about myself. This is a video I've been wanting to make for a long time. The main thing that's been stopping me is that I haven't been able to use my real voice until recently. I just had robot voice. I'll explain why that was and what changed later on. I consider myself to be a very abnormal person, largely because of the labels I use to describe myself. Neurodivergent, biracial, gender nonconforming, they all seem to be different from the ones that the majority of humans use. These labels are what I want to talk about in this video, the parts of me that make me a minority. I'm making this video for two reasons. One, to tell you, my viewers, a little bit more about who I am as a person, and two, in the hopes that some of you will find that you share certain parts of my identity. Let's start with my ethnicity. I am a half-white, half-Korean American. My parents were both born and raised in the United States. My mother's parents are also Americans with some German and Scottish heritage, but my father's parents are native South Koreans and only lived in the US temporarily. My ethnic background is part of the reason I admire Markiplier so much. People of mixed ethnicity are rare enough, but to find someone else who is specifically half white and half Korean, it feels like I stumbled on a needle in a haystack. As for my cultural identity, I am mostly American, but I've had kind of a weird experience with being Asian American. Let me explain what I mean by that. About 3 years ago was the first time I lived with people other than my immediate family. It was me and 3 strangers living in a university apartment. I was the last one to move in, and the others had already unpacked their stuff into the kitchen. As I was looking over what everyone else had brought, I noticed that our silverware set was incomplete. We had forks, knives, and spoons, but we didn't have chopsticks. Now, I thought that was weird. I had grown up thinking that a standard set of cutlery consisted of forks, knives, spoons, and chopsticks. Up until that moment, it had never occurred to me that most Americans, including my new housemates, don't include chopsticks on that list. As strange as it might sound, that was the first time I became really aware that I had grown up in an Asian American household, and that really was different. Not good or bad different, just different. This came up again a few days later, when I went to a place called the Asian Market. It's this little store in my college town that sells pretty much everything Asian. They have chopsticks, woks, rice candy, ramune, actual katanas, shrimp chips, anime posters, all kinds of Asian stuff. I truly felt like a kid in a candy store stepping into that place. As soon as I bought rice and soy sauce and tofu, and of course a set of chopsticks, it felt like a missing piece of my life had been put back into place, one that I had never known was there. I also discovered some new things, including a Japanese snack called Pocky. That day was the first time that I ever felt proud to be Asian, and it was the day I started to embrace some of the heritage that I had been basically ignoring all of my life. Now, did I make any major changes to my lifestyle because of this? Well, no. But it's not like the experience didn't change anything. At the very least, I have a new snack to enjoy. Next up, I want to talk about neurodivergence and mental health. Being neurodivergent means that a person's brain functions and processes information in a way that's different from what's considered the typical human brain. And let me tell you, my brain is very atypical. According to several psychiatric professionals, I have a condition called major depressive disorder, and it's turned my life into much more of a struggle than it needs to be. I also have something called Asperger's syndrome, but that's a topic for another day. That's less important. When people hear the term depression, they think of sadness, and for me that's partially true. My experience with MDD has included a lot of down days when I couldn't go to school or sometimes couldn't even get out of bed, either because I had no motivation or just had too many negative thoughts swirling around in my head. However, the way that MDD actually works is much more complicated than just being sad. A few times throughout my life, I've been asked the question, why are you depressed when you have so much to be happy about? I can answer this question by comparing it to another question. Why do you have asthma when there's so much air to breathe? This question seems silly because it's obvious that that's not how asthma works. You could say in the same way that that's not how depression works. I sometimes think of depression as a filter for my awareness, blocking out good things and only letting bad things through. I'm currently on medications and seeing a therapist to help manage my depression, and I act like that's normal because honestly I want it to become normal. Mental health is a topic that I definitely want to talk more about in the future. It is so common for people to struggle with their mental health, even if they don't realize it. And in order to counterbalance this, it needs to become more acceptable for people to reach out for help. Our next topic is gender, a topic that is not remotely controversial. Gender is a weird concept, but it's an important part of how human minds and societies function. As for my gender, I am a girl, and I'm also a lesbian. which means I'm a woman who feels romantic attraction towards other women and feminine people, but not towards men. I'm glossing over these points because I don't actually intend to talk about them in this video. Right now, I don't feel like I have anything to say about these topics that hasn't already been said. If I do find something I want to say, I'll come back to these in a future video. That brings me on to the big one, the one that's the most important and the hardest for me to talk about. Being transgender. A person's gender is a result of the structure of their brain, and for most people, that structure matches up with the structure of their DNA, specifically the sex chromosomes. Having 2 X chromosomes makes you female, and having 1 X and 1 Y chromosome makes you male. At least that's what humans tend to think. The truth is, gender is much more complicated than that. Oftentimes, a person's gender doesn't match up with the type of body they're born into. For example, a person born with 2 X chromosomes would have a feminine body, and that person might be female, but they could also be male or something in between. When the gender of a person's brain and body match, that's called being cisgender, and when they don't, that's called being transgender. And that's the way that I am. I was born into a body with an X and a Y chromosome, despite being female. I already feel like I am painting a target on my back saying all this. Assuming you don't hate me for saying this, you probably have one big question about it. If you live your entire life thinking that you're a boy, and being taught by other people that you're a boy and treated like a boy, how do you figure out that you're actually a girl? Well, I can assure you it was not easy. One important factor that I and most transgender people use to figure out their identity is a feeling called gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is a particular kind of discomfort or emotional pain that stems from being perceived as a gender that doesn't match yours. Okay, I'm actually recording a new segment here because I don't like the way I phrased this. Gender dysphoria is about your own perceptions, not other people's. It's caused by some part of yourself, some part of your body, or some behavior that you think doesn't match your gender identity. For example, a trans woman who has a very traditionally masculine body would probably feel very dysphoric because of it. However, it can be caused by other people. If you were to say to a trans woman that they have a very masculine body, that would probably have the same effect. For me, the biggest source of dysphoria used to be my voice. I used to have an extremely deep and strong masculine voice. And I wasn't just talking. Things like sneezing, crying, laughing, pretty much any time I made a sound with my throat, it would give me dysphoria. And this is why I used to have robot voice instead of talking with my real voice. Fortunately, last summer, I was able to have a surgery to alter the natural pitch range of my voice, and now it only very rarely makes me feel dysphoric. I still hate the way my voice sounds through a microphone, but I'm pretty sure that's normal. I think most humans hate the sound of their own voice. The first time I ever experienced gender dysphoria, although I didn't know what it was at the time, I was about 4 or 5 years old. I was at a summer camp. Not a sleepaway camp, I was too young for that, just a daytime activity. The camp counselors gave me and each of the other kids a piece of paper with an outline of a hand, as well as a set of colored pencils, and told us to color in the hands to look like our hands. So I picked out a peach-colored pencil for my skin and a light pink one for my fingernails. I was trying to match the natural color of my nails, but a friend who saw my drawing thought that I was drawing pink nail polish on my hand. And this friend said to me, "Boys don't wear nail polish." Hearing that statement hurt for reasons that I couldn't explain. I felt angry, confused, trapped. You're telling me I'm not allowed to do this because of who I am, but why do you get to decide who I am? Now I realize that this is what gender dysphoria is all about. It doesn't feel good to feel like you have no control over who you are. So, that's me. Or at least that's a brief summary of certain parts of me. If you have any questions, if you want to know more about me, or if something I said didn't make sense, then please feel free to ask me about it in the comments section. Also, if you want me to make more of these just talking videos in the future, either about the points that I glossed over today or anything else, then put that in the comments as well. Otherwise, thanks for listening to this weird rant of mine, and I guess I'll see you later.